I'm still using an iPhone 11 as my mainly driver with iOS 26, believe it or not, even though I get dozens of phones every year to review, including the iPhone 16. I still keep my main SIM card in this one, and it is never left. Also, when cycling with a friend, I noticed something funny. She also has an iPhone 11, and we ended up talking about why we are not upgrading. One reason is that the iPhone 11 is very light, and since it is not an expensive phone anymore, I don't need to be careful with it. I don't use a cover or a screen protector, and it is held up really well over the past 5 years, including being dropped from the top floor and sliding all the way down the stairs. There's only one dent on the phone, and otherwise it still looks nice. Another bonus is that it doesn't wobble on the table. Wobbling usually isn't an issue if you use a case, but if you don't want to, it can drive you crazy. The design doesn't feel outdated to me either. It still looks pretty minimalistic, and I like that it is slimmer than the iPhone 16. I also prefer that there's only one action toggle. On the iPhone 16, there's an action button and a separate camera button, which can be a bit confusing. Sometimes I accidentally press or touch it when I'm using the camera app. Sure, the display isn't up to today's standards. It is just LCD, not OLED, and the notch is still there. But to be fair, the notch was around until the iPhone 15. If you put it next to the iPhone 16, you will notice the bezels are smaller on the iPhone 16, but overall, they don't look that different. The iPhone 16 display also gets brighter in direct sunlight, but the iPhone 11 is still very readable. There's a reason phones these days have a camera bump. It is because they are trying to fit in larger sensor. A larger sensor can gather more light, which in turn increases dynamic range and overall photo quality. But I wouldn't say the iPhone 16 takes crazy better photos. It is only marginally better. For example, if you look at the picture of the risotto, you can probably see that the iPhone 16 has better overall processing, but the difference isn't that big. The same goes for this picture I took with 3x zoom. One thing that's quite obvious though is that the iPhone 16 does take better pictures of faces. That's probably a combination of better hardware and superior computational photography because of a better chipset. You also get more megapixels on the iPhone 16, so if you punch into the subject, the iPhone 11 just can't keep up. On top of that, the iPhone 16's ultra-wide lens can be used as a macro lens, meaning you can get really close to the subject, something you can't do with the iPhone 11. For normal ultra-wide shot though, they are actually pretty close. The main difference is in the colors. The iPhone 16 is more accurate, while the iPhone 11 is more punchy and saturated. The iPhone 16 is also sharper, but honestly, I low-key prefer the iPhone 11 shot here. It has this softer looking aura on the grass, which makes it feel less digital. In low light, the iPhone 16 definitely has an edge because of the larger sensor and its ability to gather more light. If it is really dark, the photos coming out of the iPhone 16 are going to look better. For video, I wouldn't say the difference is mind-blowing. The iPhone 11's colors are a bit more vibrant, and while it has less dynamic range, you'll only really notice it if you are watching on a big TV and not a small phone screen. Even in more challenging lighting, the footage is more or less the same and the colors match pretty well. The main difference is that when you zoom in, the iPhone 11 doesn't have that smooth zoom while the iPhone 16 does. One of the reasons you don't get the same video quality and features is because the iPhone 11's processor is outdated. Right now, I'm using iOS 26 on my iPhone 11, and most of the time it works great. I don't really experience bugs or lags often. The iPhone 16 does feel snappier though, which isn't surprising. I also ran Geekbench tests to measure performance, and the iPhone 11 scored about half of what the iPhone 16 got. And since the iPhone 11's chipset isn't as powerful, you don't get some of the newer features. Most famously, Apple Intelligence doesn't work. So if you hold down the power button on the iPhone 11, it connects to Siri, while on the iPhone 16, it connects to Apple Intelligence. You also don't get other Apple Intelligence features coming to the iPhones. For example, you can take a screenshot and then search for the flower in Google. Do I use these features? Sometimes on my Galaxy phone I do, but honestly, I can live without them. For battery life, the health of my iPhone 11 is now at 81%, which is fair. I've never changed the battery, and it is holding up well even after 6 years. Sure, some days the phone dies and I need to top it up, but for my usage, basically messaging, snapping pictures of invoices, and checking emails, it still gets me through the day. I did day in the life test with both phones. I did put SIM cards in them, played some YouTube, took pictures, shot some videos, pretty much what I normally do. The only unusual thing was that I also tracked the 45 kilometer, which is 27 miles cycling activity. By the end of the day, iPhone 11 was at 13%, while the iPhone 16 was at 37%. Realistically, this is one of the main reasons people want to upgrade, better battery life, and that's also why companies don't want you to easily change your battery. Hashtag right to repair. There are two other things that could be deal breakers for some people with the iPhone 11. The first is the lack of 5G support, but that's not necessarily a bad thing since it means lower battery consumption. The second is the lack of Magsafe support, which means you can't attach Magsafe accessories to the phone unless you have a Magsafe case. Personally, I don't mind, but it is something worth noting. So would I recommend buying an iPhone 11 in 2025? Probably not, mainly because software support will run out in about a year. But if you already have an iPhone 11, you can just keep using it. I wouldn't say you need to upgrade. Both me and my friend are using it daily and we both work in tech. We could easily get a new phone, but we just don't want to. And fun fact, she actually works for Apple. You could also look at something like the iPhone 16e, and if you want to see a comparison of the iPhone 16e versus the iPhone 16, you can watch this video next. Thanks for tuning into Tecmo, and I will see you in the next one.